Welcome to These Are Good Days with Leanne Miller
and Matt Barris.
Well, Matt, it's been a little quiet in Disneyland.
I don't have a lot to say about Disney these days.
I feel like we have not broached the subject very much.
Well, you know why? Well, there's one thing I do want to talk about is we talked about this last week. We're doing a little bit of home updates.
It's so exciting.
This is an exciting thing that we're creating a gallery wall of art that we love, but we're also mixing in fun little things. So if you follow me on Instagram, you know, a couple weeks ago, we had a picture of this silly woman from I think the postcard said 1903.
Had to, yeah.
And I think we're gonna call her Aunt Gertie.
Okay.
And that's what the Instagram people want. They want Aunt Gertie. But I also did find this vintage photograph of Walt Disney that I'm going to incorporate into the wall because he's like our Uncle Walt. But here's why you haven't heard about it.
He made Magic Kingdom.
That's right. Here's why you haven't heard about it is we have our nose to the grindstone.
Yes.
This is the season where people are like, what am I doing this summer? I want to take my kids to Disney. Let's do it. I'm
just still so flabbergasted, impressed. I'm in awe that you can be I don't know if the word's certified, but you can be a Disney travel agent, plan people's trips. Mm-hmm. So someone can call you up. Right. Our friend Kelly Brownlee wants to go one day.
That's right.
And she can call you up and she can say, hey, Matt, plan my trip for me.
That's right.
I like this and I like this and I like this. And then you plan it all.
We plan it all.
And it costs nothing.
It costs nothing extra.
It costs nothing.
It's so fun. We can plan Disney World, Disneyland, and Disney cruises, and they're all incredible. So,
listen, I have a question. I've always wondered this.
Okay.
And maybe you know this fact. Maybe you don't. But I bet the World Wide Web does. How many characters of each character are there? Because I know there's not only one Donald Duck roaming around. I know there's not only one Mickey Mouse. Right. How many of them are there?
Well, at any given day, there are many Mickey Mouses in Florida.
Really?
There's a Mickey Mouse that wears a safari outfit at Animal Kingdom.
Really?
There's a Mickey Mouse at Topolino's Terrace that wears an artist outfit.
We have to keep this from the children.
Now, we should put a disclaimer at the beginning of this that this episode might ruin the magic. I don't know how many there are, but I know there's one in California and Florida. There's one that does publicity stuff in New York City and Chicago.
We need to Google it one day because I bet there's got to be at any given time about 102 Mickeys.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Or 71 Mickeys. There's got to be a lot of them.
I think the rule, though, is, from what I've read in my research over the years, is there can only be one Mickey at a time in each park. So you can't have Mickey in a parade and Mickey meeting someone in the same park at the same time. So they shut down the Mickey. I think this is true. If this is not true, Disney Danielle will no doubt correct me. I think they shut down the meet and greets so that Mickey can be in the parade or on the castle show.
Okay.
I think there's only one in every park.
Okay. All right. Well, I've just always wondered. Yeah. I'm like, I know there's not only one of them.
Inquiring minds.
There's got to be more than one. There's got to be
right. I kept my eyes peeled recently for Disney vintage stuff, but nothing tickled my fancy.
Nothing tickled your fancy.
Listen, I didn't know there were so many swan things in antique stores. I keep my eyes peeled now. There's a lot of swan planters. There's a lot of brass swan things.
I know. You know, I've got some new swan planters going out on the porch this year.
That's right. I'm so excited about them.
Listen, I've gotten picky though, Matt, because they are everywhere. I don't want just a swan to have a swan.
Right.
I want
Right. No one would want that. No one. No.
I want the swan to speak to me.
Yes.
I want it to be like, that's the swan, and I know exactly where I'm going to put it.
Do your swans talk to you in your head?
Oh, no.
Do they have voices?
No.
Oh, good.
No.
Good. I was a little concerned.
But I've got some real cute ones.
You do. I like your little green blown glass one in your kitchen.
Yep. Shout out Berta.
If you are listening.
She gave me that one. Okay, listen, what was your good day?
My good day. Okay. We're in a season. We have a 10-year-old. I know you've had two 10-year-old boys. We have a 10-year-old boy. We're in the season where I feel like we're in a transition. He's no longer a child. He is turning into a preteen. Here's what's happening with Luca. He needs to shower. He needs to DO for the BO.
Yeah.
We're kind of getting to the place
where... And hair. Sometimes they don't want to wash their hair.
Greasy.
I know.
So recently Mallory said, okay, it's time for you to tap in, Dad. She's like, I think we need to take him shopping, because really up until this point, we've just bought his clothes for him. Mallory's bought his clothes. You know, he hasn't really been involved. I mean, he goes shopping every now and then, but he hasn't really been involved in the process.
Wow.
So I actually...
This is a transition.
It is.
Right here.
And we had some talks in the car, and I took him... We just started out small. We started at Old
Navy.
Navy.
To Old Navy, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, Old Navy, if you are listening. Old Navy is here in Worcester.
I know. And honestly, truthfully, what a great place to get some staples for your kids. Because here's the thing.
That don't break the bank.
Don't break the bank. I know Luca's going to keep growing, so I don't want to drop so much money on clothes because I know he's growing. So I said, look, we're going to get 1 pair of jeans, 2 pair of sweatpants for school.
I bet he loved that.
And we tried stuff on. You know, he's at a place where I'll stand outside the dressing room and tell him to open the door.
I bet he loved that.
And it was really, really, really good. And I said,
I love that.
We walked around the store and I said, tell me what things you like and what you don't like and what style you like. And my only caveat for him this time was we weren't going to buy cartoon characters right now. Like there are times where we'll buy him like a Mario Brothers shirt or whatever.
Right.
But I said, I think we need to pick some just like stylish things for you. So I let him pick and he was so thankful and it was a really good experience. And then I said, you know, how you doing on deodorant? Do we need to go to the store and get some deodorant? How you doing on hair stuff?
Did you show him how to
shower gel?
You showed him how to put the deodorant on?
Yeah, he's been doing that this whole school year. But I was
good.
just like, how are your supplies?
Yes.
Do we need more supplies?
Good.
Do you like what you have? And it's one of those things where I'm like, oh, we are moving into a new season. I said,
oh, Lord, Axe was popular when Joey was.
It still is. It still is. But you know what? Old Spice, ever since that commercial with that man that goes like, I don't know what he says, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And they have the so that
there you are with the tunes again. You're going to get us in trouble.
Right. I know. Old Spice. If you are listening, 2 things: sponsor us and don't come for us. Like pay us money. I didn't mean to copy or like to share your.
Okay,
song.
listen. I'm going to share a good day with you, and you're going to share it with me along with the good day you just had. You're going to be like, oh yes, of course. We had a recent good day that was absolutely lovely and amazing and an honor to MC the O Huddle event.
Oh, so good.
So many incredible people.
That's
Such
right.
a great nonprofit here locally. You can do a couple little lines about O Huddle because you are much more well-versed than I am because you're on their board.
Yeah. We've talked about O Huddle.
We love Sarah Reese. She's been on the podcast. She's a child psychologist. She is the founder and director of O Huddle. We love her, and they just had their annual... Really, it's a fundraiser event, but they just had their annual one, and we got to MC that, Matt.
It was so fun. It was so fun. And listen, anytime if you are listening, we can banter with the best of them.
We can.
So we loved that opportunity.
Wonderful food.
Oh my goodness.
Miss Amy's Bakery.
She was
once
there.
again.
Yes.
We just talked about her last week.
We love talking about Miss Amy. Listen, here's the thing.
Hey, but she's very generous.
Oh, incredibly generous.
Yes.
That's what I would want people to know. Miss Amy from Miss Amy's Bakery is incredibly talented. But what's even greater about her is she has a big heart and really does give back to our community.
Yep.
So if you go to Miss Amy's or if you're friends with Miss Amy, let her know about this podcast, that we love her because we really do love her in the community.
And instead of buying 2 cupcakes, why don't you buy 6?
Yeah,
and give some away.
That's right. And say,
support her.
I'm buying these because these are good days. Matt and Leanne told me to buy extra cupcakes. So yeah, and you know what? Here's what I love about O Huddle. O Huddle is the single largest one-to-one mentoring nonprofit in the state of Ohio. Bigger than any of the chain big names that you probably are thinking of. Over 450 kids in our county currently being mentored in a one-to-one relationship. And what I love about it is in Sarah's work, often because I work in education, I know how this goes, is when you see a kid that's just not making the progress that you'd like for them to see, we have meetings about them and we say, okay, what do we need to do to help this kid? And often
that changes everything.
And often what happens is we say, oh, they need this reading program, they need this extra service. But what Sarah kept coming back to as a school psychologist is the biggest gains that you make in kids is a relationship. And so essentially, to make a very long story short, she quit her job and works for O-Huddle and now leads that.
Started O-Huddle, right?
And she's an incredible director of that nonprofit.
Yeah,
so
that's great.
We were honored to be a part of that celebration. So it was their 10-year anniversary. And it was so great.
It was so great.
That's awesome. Hey, well, this is a part 2 episode for us. Last week, we talked about the misconceptions that people have of us. And we wanted to dig a little deeper into what do we do when we have misconceptions about other people? Because here's the reality. We've all been there. Listen, maybe we should have flipped these, because the reality is, before we struggle with misconceptions about us, we probably have had to fight misconceptions we've had about other people in our head. Right. So today we want to talk a little bit about that. Here's what I think is hard. You brought up this quote from Marcel Proust, where he said, "Never meet your heroes." And the reason he said that
sad. I know. That's a sad reality.
And the reason he said that is they present what they want and create an image for you to see. But here's the reality. The reality is there are people in our life every day that aren't necessarily crafting and creating an image. They're just living their life. But we make misconceptions about them.
Right.
And why is it that we do that?
Well, and here's the thing. Don't we want people to give us, shouldn't we be extending the same amount of grace and open-mindedness to other people as we want them, what we talked about last week, what we want them to extend to us? And it's funny how it's easy not to do that, especially if you've heard something more than once about somebody, or if you've experienced something firsthand with somebody. And, it is hard, because the truth is, sometimes it's not a misconception. Sometimes that person really is a scallywag,
That's true.
But sometimes it is a misconception.
Right.
Often it is.
The reality is, and we've talked about this in the past, is when it is not a misconception and over and over and over, you continue to get the same experience, or you personally have had an experience or a run-in with this person, it's probably time to evaluate some boundaries with that. We're not really talking about that today. Today, we're talking about the misconceptions in your head that you have about people, and what do we do with that? Because I think sometimes it burdens us and it takes up space in our brains. I was just talking to Mallory about this because a couple weeks ago we had the Super Bowl. And some people know the Super Bowl now because of sports, and some people know it because of Taylor Swift.
Right.
And I said to Mallory, why does everyone have an opinion about Taylor Swift? I truly, truly do not understand this.
That's because you're not a teenage girl or a girl that has grown up with her music and have really...
No, I don't mean it like that. I don't mean it like that.
Mean?
I mean it like, why do so many people think that that Taylor should or shouldn't be at a football game?
Oh, okay. Right.
Or why do so many people think or care about who she should or shouldn't date? And what I think about that is what leads someone, and specifically, and we can talk about Taylor Swift to start with, is specifically, how do people get to a point where they have a thought about something and then they keep thinking about it over and over and over again? Then they start saying it to people and then they probably write it online or have an opinion. And I told Mallory, I said, it's okay to not have an opinion. It's okay for me not to look at someone and think something. And I actually think, because of what we talked about last week, because I've experienced in my adult life, I would say my whole life, we've all experienced being judged or misconstrued in some way,
misinterpreted, or
and I think that the more that I've experienced that, I think the more grace that I give to other people, or I might have an experience with someone that I'm like, oh, that was weird, and kind of let it go out of my head.
Right.
Because I truly, if I'm focused on what I want to do and where I want to go, or I have my priorities in alignment with my family or my job or my friendships or things like podcasting or whatever, I really don't have energy to spend to give to every little fleeting thought that's in my head. But it's fascinating to me what it takes to get someone to have a misconception about someone that goes from a fleeting thought all the way to maybe writing an opinion online or saying something to their face or gossiping about them. A lot has to happen in that time. And I truly don't understand how we get there. And truthfully, I'm not immune to this. I'm sure I do it. There are some times where I'll say stuff to you that I'm like, oh, I probably don't need to say that. Not about you, but maybe about a thought about someone else or some instance or situation. And I just find it fascinating that we will allow ourselves to go so deep into something and form these strong opinions about someone, and then we let it come out of our mouth.
Right.
Truthfully, the Bible says, for out of the overflow of your heart, the mouth speaks. Mm-hmm. So I think the good check for me is, what am I letting fester in my heart? Because whatever's in my heart's going to come out of my mouth eventually.
Well, and why are you caring about it?
Right.
Like why are you caring? I think one of the things that is an easy thing that breaks down that for me with looking at someone and having maybe a preconceived idea. Maybe it's an experience I had with them. Maybe it's something that somebody has told me about them. Maybe it's something that 4 people have told me about them.
Right.
Is when you interact with someone in the flesh, when you get a in-person experience, that can really help change. That can really help swing the pendulum one way or the other.
Absolutely. That's something I wrote down as one of our research points, is spend more time with them.
Right.
If there's someone that you do have to cross paths with, or someone that you're interested in or want to cultivate a relationship with, you need to spend more in-person time with them.
And listen, there's nothing wrong with being prudent as far as if you've heard certain things about this person. And I would say this in regard to myself.
Mm-hmm.
If I went to meet someone and that person, 3 different people told them something about me that was a little bit it's okay to be wise and not say too much.
Right.
And just kind of get to know that person slowly and if you're going to be with that person in person, to watch their behavior, watch their language, how they talk, how they treat people. That's when you start to see, oh, I think that the ideas that people have been sharing with me are true. Or you go, I don't see that at all in that person. This person is great.
Right. Right. Well, I think it can be really hard is for us is, what do we do when we have the wrong misconception of someone? And I asked about this on my Instagram, and I asked people to speak into a little bit. And one of our friends, Mel Yoder, came in, mm-hmm. and she said something like,
shout out Mel.
Yes, Mel.
We love you, Mel.
Mel said something to the effect of, it just depends on that person. It depends on who the person is.
Right.
If they are someone that I'm friends with or someone in my family and I've had a misconception about them, I might talk to them about it. If it's someone that's just an acquaintance, I probably won't, and just keep my eye on that experience and where I think it's going to head.
Right.
I don't think we always have to talk about our misconceptions with people.
And I also think, it's how much of that voice are you allowing in your life?
Absolutely.
I mean, if that person starts mentoring you, that's a whole different thing.
Yeah. And I think someone else wrote in my box, they said, time has a way of telling the truth.
Oh.
So, we often have these
so
misconceptions of people, but if you do spend intentional time with them, over time, you're going to find out the truth. We talked about this last week, but I hate being misunderstood. But I always remind myself of this. The more interactions I have with someone, the more opportunities they're going to have to form themselves about me. And my hope is that when untruths are said about me, someone that knows me well, when I'm not in the room, will say, well, that's not the experience I had with Matt. Or maybe he was having a bad day.
Oh, 100%.
Or I don't see that in Matt at all. I think you're misreading that. And I think the more time we spend with people, the more we know how their intentions are going to go,
correct.
The more we know what to expect from them, and vice versa. And so I think as we try to bust those misconceptions of people in our life, I think it's really important just to give people time as well.
Yeah, 100%. And listen, this speaks to leaders for sure. When people are in authority positions, there's all kinds of people that have opinions underneath the leadership of those people.
Right.
So this goes for pastors, this goes for CEOs, this goes for department heads, where you go, oh, I wouldn't want to work for that person. I've heard that they're XYZ.
Right.
And you think, oh, I don't see that in them. That's not my experience.
Right.
And then you're led by them for about 6 months and you're like, oh, snap. They are that person.
Right.
Like they really are an egomaniac.
Right.
Or they really are someone who is nice to your face, but catty and malicious behind your back. And you're right. Time has a way of exposing. Well, I mean, it's really just truth, really. I was raised with the saying, the truth always surfaces.
Yeah,
the truth always, the truth
comes
comes out in the end.
That's right.
And it does.
It really does. Someone else said, I repent and reframe. Repent and reframe. So what that means to me is when they have a misconception about someone, maybe they don't go to that person. I don't think we always need to, but I think we can repent in our heart and say, oh man, I really feel bad that I misjudged them.
I actually don't think it's necessary really at
all to say something to that person.
To say something to the person.
Well, can you tell a story? There's a story that do you know the story?
Yes, I know. Yeah.
Can you tell a story to us where you were at this business retreat, and someone had a misconception about you, and they told you?
Oh,
and how it felt?
Yeah, it was very interesting. So I was at this event, and and I am a I just have a very outward personality.
Yeah.
I have a very like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy to be here.
Well, and listen, you're 55.
I'm 55. And I get to do what I want. No, not really. I'm 55 and I really have grown into being myself.
Totally.
And, I wear big frame glasses and, sometimes I think people, when especially if I start speaking, are like, who is she? And so this woman, after we had spent time together, we had spent a nice amount of time together. Yeah. And I shared in front of this group and, people really got to know me more.
Right. And you were vulnerable.
Yes, vulnerable.
Yeah, you showed that side of yourself.
So like, just a couple days into it, I'm sitting with this woman and she says, I need to tell you something. I need to just say, I'm just so sorry. And she just got like almost emotional. And I'm like, what do you mean? What? And she's like, when I first met you, I just looked at you when you were talking and I just thought to myself, who is this? Who is this woman?
Bro.
And it's like, and she said, and I just thought, bro, you're dumb. Like, literally to my face said when she first met me that she thought, bro, you're dumb when I was talking. So I said, wait a second. Hold on. Did you just say that when you first met me and I first started talking and sharing, you thought, bro, you're dumb? and she said, this woman looked at me and she said, yes. And I'm so sorry. And I'm like, wow.
Okay.
Like, I don't know what I said at first that triggered that.
Right.
But, and I also think that this is common when you're in a room with people that are leaders and people that are high functioning and people that are creators and people that are just like hustlers.
Right.
They're kind of looking at everybody like sizing everybody up and where do I fit in the lineup.
Right.
And so it's easy to think, bro, you're dumb, I guess, and not like,
Do you think you needed to hear that? Or do you think, because this was my thought, did that person need to say that to you? Or could they have
15 years before, it would have really messed with me.
Yeah.
Now I have laughed about that.
You've laughed about that for years.
I have laughed about that. I just think it's so funny that someone would literally have the chutzpah, like the guts, the balls, to literally say, say, when I first heard you talking and I first met you, I thought, bro, you're dumb.
What?
I still just, it makes me laugh. And it also endears me to this woman. Because,
absolutely.
how vulnerable.
Right.
kind and sweet of her to make it right, to feel like she needed to come clean and confess it. But I've just gotten a real chuckle out of it.
Do you think when we have a misconception about someone that it is necessary to always say that?
No,
I don't either.
No, I don't. I think it could have totally went unsaid.
I do love.
I think it could have been said differently. I think it could have said, when I first met you, I had some preconceived ideas about you that were completely false.
Right.
Instead of like, when I first met you, I was like, bro, who is this? Like, bro, you're dumb. But I do think also, I am older than I was older than a lot of the people in the room. And so I think that, and we've talked about this recently, that when you're dealing with someone that that's a little more seasoned and has a little more maturity, that, you can look past a lot of things to the heart of what is being said and communicated. But yeah, I've gotten a chuckle out of it.
That's funny. And
I thought you were going to ask me about the Facebook story.
Oh, tell us about that one too.
So recently, not all that long ago, within the last 2 months, Matt posted on his Facebook page something just about the podcast. And it was just positive and great and uplifting and life-giving. And so many people in the comments were just so over the top
I think
wonderful.
The funny thing about
just
our podcast is we talk about it on Instagram a lot, and I'm trying to be intentional about Facebook because people that are like our real friends sometimes, I'm not sure they're listening. I want like some of our like people in our life. I'm like, hey guys, did you know we do this?
Just reminding them. So this local lady, I'm just casually familiar with this woman. I don't know her. And she commented and just was so admirable of you. I mean, just so gushing over you. Matt, I've always loved you. I've always respected you. I've always thought you were great. And then the last part of the comment was, Leanne, I really don't know her at all. Only the things that I've heard. And then it was like, ... You know how it can be in a small town. And I was like, well, no, I'm not going to let that go. I'm not going to not say something because what I think, and I talked about this recently at that event at Be Fearless.
Oh, my Facebook's going to get a bunch of traffic tonight.
I think there is this approach to when things like that are said or done, just let it go. Don't say anything. Don't speak about it. But I just felt like for that, I thought, well, first of all, this was a very positive post, and a comment like that is very, it's very off-putting. It's almost catching you off guard. Where I was like reading the comments, just feeling so honored and encouraged and just blessed and loved. And then I come across this comment that's like, I don't know Leanne at all, only what I've heard about her. And I was like, oh, that does not feel kind. And so I responded. And I just basically said, this is an odd thing to say. Because what it does is it really, when you grow up in a small town or in a rural community, you know that people talk, and some of the talk isn't accurate or kind or nice or uplifting or life-giving. And I was like, it took me off guard. Like it shocked me. And so I said something, and then she came back in and responded and completely, literally missed the point. And I thought, I'm not going to go any further than this. I've just pretty much said my piece. I do think it's important, whether it's you being misread or you misreading another. I think you can speak into it, and then you need to let it lie, let it go. I don't think to continue just to churn it and talk about it. We've talked about this because you and I both are people who like to flush it out. And then there comes a time where we need to not talk about it.
I'm getting better at that.
You are. I am. You really are. Often you just do it to me. You're like, it's not going to do any good to talk about it anymore. And I'm like, okay, well, and it's true. It's true. And I think that's a sign of good health. It's a sign of saying like, this is actually just going to, you have to determine in situations like that, is this going to upset me more or is this going to solve something? Here's where I am with this with this. When I see something like that, and I'm like, that doesn't feel kind.
Mm-hmm.
It feels odd, and it feels like I need to say something. I'm going to say something.
Right.
And when I do that, what I'm noticing, because this is not Leanne of 10 years ago, when I would fuss about it,
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I'd even cry about it.
Yeah.
I would vent about it to poor D. I would vent about it to you, and never speak into it. Never enter the chat and say, this is not appropriate.
Right.
And I'm noticing that when I do that, and I want to encourage you, if you feel led to speak into something that you feel is wrong that's being said about you, what you'll notice is you will feel empowered by that.
Mm-hmm.
You'll feel like, I've said what I need to say, and now I can let go.
Right.
And then I had an entourage. I just had a wave of people coming into my DMs and texting me and saying, do not worry about that comment.
Right.
Just,
Right.
Don't worry about it. Let it go. And I'm like, thank you. I said what I needed to say. And, and I think it's good to do that. It's good to stand up for yourself.
Totally. I think too.
Listen, bullying doesn't have to look like a big old bad bully.
No.
Bullying can look like a compliment in disguise.
Right. And listen, the internet has made us all real brave. It's made us all real brave.
Real brave.
Real brave.
And this could sound unkind, but real brave, and also sometimes very unwise.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the internet makes us real brave. Here's the thing about the internet too, when we talk about social media and we talk about our heroes and that kind of thing, you only see what people want to show you in those instances. And so often you don't see the whole picture. There are people that I've seen online where they have the perfect life, they have the perfect house, they have the perfect XYZ, but not everybody's life is perfect.
Oh, not at all.
And even for all of us, I don't present a whole lot online that's perfection, but people think they know what my life is like.
Right.
They think but they really only are seeing the tip of the iceberg.
Yes,
There's so much that happens in my home
100%.
and my real relationships and in friendships that I have and conversations I have with people. And so I think when we misread or misjudge others, it's such a good reminder to say, hey, we only see the tip of the iceberg for this person. We only see just a little bit.
Right.
And so I think giving them grace and helping our brains set free from those thoughts.
Right.
I love the phrase that is, why are you letting them live rent free in your head?
Right.
When we are thinking about other people and we're thinking about all the opinions we can have about them. Taylor Swift to me is the best example, because I'm like, literally, why do people have opinions about her? Let her live her life.
Yes.
She's done great things. Is she we don't need to dissect if she's a role model for children, because here's the reality.
We don't need to dissect her at all.
I'm going to make that choice for my children. And, when the time comes for me to decide if my daughter's going to listen to her music or not, then I'll think about it.
Right.
But I don't need to spend brain energy on that.
Right.
I have much other things I need to be thinking about. So anyway, this is such a good conversation, because here's, at the end of the day, what I think is, when we extend grace to people, it's do unto others as you would have them to do unto you, right? Mm-hmm. So the better we get at extending grace and understanding and knowing that we don't see the full picture, and when we get better at that, so that we are not constantly in cycles of judging others or misreading them, the hope is that we receive that back.
Yeah,
and I truly don't think I'm not a big karma kind of guy, but I do think when you're putting out negativity in the world and you're putting out criticism or judgment of other people know, and they're like, oh, that's somebody that I can talk to about that.
Right.
It's not karma.
Right.
It's you saying, hey, if you are a gossipy person or you're a judgmental person,
or you're negative,
you throw that out there in the world, people are like, oh, when I want that fix of gossip or negativity or judgment, I know exactly who I'm going to talk to.
Right.
And listen, we have a friend, Kat, that's a clinician that says, those negative things, they find each other.
Yeah.
So those people that want that, they'll find each other. So I guess at the end of the day, what I say is extend the grace to others that you wish to be extended to you.
Yeah. Listen, Matt, before we go, let's just talk a little bit about food.
Always. I'll never say no to this.
I need to talk to you about the cinnamon toast bread at Walnut Creek Cheese. Now, listen, I do. Walnut Creek Foods is our official sponsor. We love them. We appreciate them. They're so good to us. But beyond just being our sponsor, we love them. I mean,
when we started this whole podcast journey, and I'm not going to jump on to criticizing other people. We were like, we are only using sponsors that we truly love.
Yes.
And I can say with confidence that we loved Walnut Creek Cheese long before this podcast.
Yes, long before.
Long.
And the cinnamon toast bread, I love it toasted with some butter with a little sprinkle of flake salt on it.
Okay.
But the true gem of the cinnamon toast is as French toast. Because the pieces are round and small.
It's a hearty bread.
It is a delicious bread, and it is carried at Mark's. We know that.
Yes.
We know that they carry it at Mark's.
You know what else I love that's the same shape as the English muffin bread?
Yes. You know what else I love is the cinnamon rolls.
Oh.
Those cinnamon rolls.
But you know what? I kind of want to do a poll. Because I want to know, are we team maple or team vanilla?
Oh, I'm team maple.
I'm team maple too.
Way. I mean, don't even bother with the vanilla with me.
Like, what is vanilla?
If you bring cinnamon rolls to my house from Walnut Creek Cheese, do not bring vanilla.
Yeah.
Bring maple.
I'm mad about it.
Bring maple or don't come.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
I have misconceptions about people who like vanilla.
I love the maple. It's
too.
delicious. And they're so generous with the frosting.
I know. I love it. So, hey, if you have not tried either of those things, get yourself. And we've said this before. If you are not in our area, we have people listening from Seattle,
yes.
We have a lady from California that says, someday I'm going to come to Amish country and visit you guys. We have people from Georgia. We have people in Maryland.
Yes.
If you don't know where you can buy Walnut Creek Foods products, you can go to walnutcreekfoods.com. They have a zip code calculator,
a locator
that will show you where you can buy their products. So run. Don't walk. Let your fingers do the talking, and then you can do the walking.
What? No.
That was weird.
Yeah, but
but anyway, use that locator. Hey, thanks for joining us in this conversation about misconceptions, and literally try the French toast bread. It's so good.
Yeah,
it's so good.
Cinnamon toast bread.
Awesome. Hey, well, whether ordinary or extraordinary, we hope you see that these are good days.
This episode brought to you by Walnut Creek Foods.